Hey guys, welcome back. Patrick here. It's been a long time since we did a review. Well, finally I found a spec that I feel is pretty decent that I want to talk about. We are going to look into Planet Labs that is going to be merging with DMYQ. You can see the ticker on the screen. So this is another space company. You guys know how SPACs work, right? One, they come out with one, then after that they all mimic it and bring out all of the other private companies after that. So this company is a lot like Black Sky, but a few months ago when I was doing the reviews on a lot of the space companies, I was looking at Black Sky and I was like, this company is okay, but looking at the satellite images, there are other companies that look better, right? Their quality seems better, including Planet Labs. So that's why I wanted to talk about it today. We'll look into the pros and the cons of the company and then how I would actually be playing the stock. So let's get started. I hope you guys enjoy it. Quick disclosure, I currently do not own shares, warrants, or options in the company, so I don't have a financial interest in them. I'm trying to look at this as objectively as possible. Now, what is Planet Labs? Well, it is one of those companies that has satellites in orbit and collects images of Earth, and they then sell to different agencies. Currently, the main application is defense, but over time, this is going to morph into a lot of different projects. This is just the beginning of this industry, and so there's an ever-increasing demand for this type of data, and we're just scratching the surface right now, with Planet Labs being one of the leaders currently. So there is going to be some competition over time, but for now they are one of the leaders, so that gives them an advantage. They have a pretty big constellation already. So let me show you two real-life examples of their constellation of satellites being used, like real-life applications, and then later on in the video we'll show some of the other ones like agriculture and things like that. All right, so the first one, if you guys remember a few months ago, the Suez Canal, one of the most important areas of the world for trade, was blocked by a large cargo ship. Every news agency in the world reported this. Well, most of them, or a lot of them, used Planet Labs satellite images to actually show what was going on. Look at how it really, you can see clearly how the ship is blocking the canal, right? So I feel like this is not the clearest picture. I've seen other ones from Planet Labs that were a little bit better than this, but this is how they're going to be using it, right? So that is one of the first examples I want to show you. And the other one is more defense oriented. Planet's commercial satellite imagery data reveals critical geopolitical developments. Well, that is really government centric, right? So let me show you. In a Washington Post exclusive, experts at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies explain how their team used Planet's continuous stream of satellite imagery. Remember, continuous stream is a very important keyword here, to discover and monitor the construction of hundreds of intercontinental ballistic missile silos across 700 square miles of remote desert around Yumen, a city in northwestern China. Right, so they keep talking about this. Later on, they discovered 230 more silos, and I want you to see here, these important discoveries could not have been made without the unique, always-on design of Planet's Dove constellation, Jeffrey Lewis, an expert at MIIS, said. Right, so this is one of the big key differentiator between these different companies, is that some of the ones that are just starting out, like Black Sky, that don't have a lot of satellites in orbit currently, well, they're only going to cover certain areas of the world like once every couple days. And the goal eventually in several years is going to be like going back over the same spot multiple times a day so that you can see a live feed, right, that's going to update over time. But for now, most of the companies, like, they'll go over one time per week, for example. So that's not as good for preventing things like these, that defense-wise, it is critical to see like the country actually building missile silos, or in a case like this for trade where you see the blockage right away. And so the faster you're going to get those refresh on the maps provided by Planet Labs, the better. So that is one of their competitive advantage right now. They are years ahead of some of their competitors. Let's take a quick look at the investor presentation. What can we find? Well, first, let's talk about the sponsor. I usually don't really look at them, but in this case, I want to give him credit. Harry Yu is behind some of the other SPACs that we've seen before, like Rush Street Elite Interactive and Genius Sports that are doing fairly well. He's the type of SPAC sponsor that tries to find companies that already have products and revenues, and Planet is in that category. They will have 200 million PIPE, and even though right now it is fairly difficult to raise that PIPE investments, well, they actually found some, right? And they will have 345 million in trust. So those are the stats, but the company itself has very, very good stats. They already have over 200 satellites in orbit, and as we were talking about earlier, the bigger your constellation, the more passes over each area of interest in the world, the better your data set is going to be, right? So for those agencies that are buying this data and monitoring what's happening, well, this is much better. So for now, they will go with Planet Labs in a lot of cases. And so they expect 110 million in revenues in 2021. I'm filming this in August, so a great part of the year is already over, so this should be fairly accurate. It's not like in January and February where they were projecting hundreds of millions of dollars in revenues, and a lot of them never ended up getting those revenues. With Planet Labs, I'm pretty confident they'll hit pretty close to 110. And 90% of that revenue is recurring, because these are agencies that need that data every day, every week, every month, and probably for the next several years. So you are going to see a lot of repeat customers, and these relationships are going to be very sticky. Aside from defense contractors, who actually needs this information? Well, we're just scratching the surface right now. In the future, you'll be able to use this type of service to monitor crops and agriculture, monitor flights, no more airplanes lost in the sea and things like those, and even deforestation. So they give you a lot of different examples. Let's talk about energy, for example. All of these pipelines, we've seen a lot of spills in the past few years. Well, you'll be able to track those from space. Civil engineering, developing how the cities are built. All of those applications, you are going to be able to use the data from Planet Labs. So that's great, except I have one big problem with this, is that eventually in the future, as more and more companies launch satellites, right, once you have the satellite, it's going to be working for many, many, many years. I feel like this data is going to become a little bit more commoditized. You guys have probably know I've been talking about this in a lot of different reviews in the past. At some point, the data itself is going to be a commodity. It's the value is going to go down, the margin is going to go down. All right, so this is very, very important for this company. It's not just the data. Currently, that is what they make a lot of their money from, selling those images to the different industries, to the different agencies. But in the future, what's going to happen is it's going to be a little bit more the monitoring aspect that's going to matter. The software applications that are built on top of this data and that kind of detect the changes that are happening. So that is the massive market opportunity that they're talking about, not just the data. I hope that makes sense, right? Over time, you're going to have BlackSky, Maxar, Planet Labs, all of those companies are going to get those satellite images, but only certain companies are going to build the software stack on top of it that are going to provide more value to these different agencies. All right, so 19 billion, according to them, is the opportunity for the actual data, right? But then after that, it's more like monitoring. Imagine you have an alarm system. Well, when they actually sell you the alarm system, they're not really making that much money from the system itself. It's the monthly monitoring that they make all of their profits on, and where the profit margins are. I hope that makes sense. That is crucial for Planet Labs. I see that as their big competitive advantage in the future. Here it is. This is the picture I was telling you guys about, much crisper and cleaner than what we saw in the CNBC article. Well, this is how they're going to be able to monitor everything that happens on land. It is so precise, even if it's taken from space, that you are going to see all the developments. Now, I don't know if this scares you, right? Because if you're sunbathing in your backyard, be very careful next time. Be on your best behavior, because they might be monitoring you from space. Right? But they give you a lot of different examples. This is going to be more energy related, and the oil tanks. You have volcanoes. You have a city or a military base being built in the desert. We're just scratching the surface. They're going to be able to monitor all of that. Now, I'm not sure if they're going to do the monitoring themselves or if they're going to sell the data to other third-party companies are going to be doing the monitoring, kind of like in the alarm system analogy, kind of like ADT, for example, right? Are they just going to sell that data to another company that's going to do the monitoring? I'm not quite sure yet, but this is what the business model looks like. All right, so 96 million this in 2020, 113 million this year, 27% compound annual growth rate. That sounds about right, 20 to 30% for this type of company. They're not going to grow hyper aggressively like some of the other SPACs we've seen before, 75%, 100%. But a lot of them, right, have kind of disappointed us. This is the type of company that you're not going to see those massive spikes, but also those massive crashes. It is going to be that nice, steady growth, and there's a place for that in your portfolio. At least that's my opinion. The only downside is, of course, like most of the other SPACs, they're currently losing money, and that's why they're raising money. So 11 million in 2021, then 36, 39, 10 millions in 2024, which is kind of like the inflection point, and then they should become cash flow positive in 2025 if you're patient enough to wait until all of that time. Now, what the company needs right now is to sell that data to more companies. Currently, they already have the satellites in place and they're getting all of that data. Well, now they actually need to generate more revenues, and I believe that's what they're working on right now, ramping out that sales force and actually starting to develop programs that are going to analyze this data and bring more value to the potential customers. All right, guys, before I wrap up the video, we have to look at the valuation. It is a lot easier than it used to be because now we can just look at the pro forma, since most of these SPACs are stuck at $10. Well, they underwrote the company at 2.7 billion minus the cash that they will have in trust, which is 508 million. So they are going to be worth $2.25 billion, which is about a 20 price to sales ratio if you consider their revenues in 2021 of 113 million. So it's not terrible, it's not really undervalued, and that's kind of what I was talking about with the SPAC sponsor, Harry Yu. He tends to give the companies a good valuation, right? So you're not going to get a huge discount, you're not going to really overpay for the company, you are getting what the company is worth, basically. So currently the shares are at $9.92. This is a company that I feel is going to do pretty well in the future. As I mentioned, it's probably going to have that nice steady growth. I kind of like it, but again, we have to be realistic. We're in 2021. The SPACs are not hot like they used to be. So it's better to be a little bit more cautious and wait and see how the company develops and how the stock, especially the price, develops. So I'm going to wait until after the merger to look at it once again. I'm going to just add it to my watch list and monitor it. And then over time, I might open a position on it. Now, the warrants, though, at 154, they're pretty well priced. Anything that's 150 or less when it comes to the warrants provides a pretty good risk versus reward because, I mean, it's not going to really drop a lot after the merger, even if the share price drops. And if the share price does go up, then you're going to get that exponential returns through the warrants. So that is one thing to keep in mind. If you're interested in the company, you could go with the warrants. Now, I hope you enjoyed the video, right? If you want to have more information about all of the stocks that I'm looking into, all the strategies we're using, you can look at the Patreon in the description and in the comments. I mean, people have been really good so far. We're all sharing tips and tricks and our strategies. So if you want to check it out, link in the description and in the comments. We've had amazing results already, and it's just been in 1 month. So see you guys later. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this company.